Retro Games fans, this is Andy C from Pieces of 8-Bit. As you can probably tell, there's a few little hints as to what I might be talking about this week. Yeah, you guessed it, and obviously you clicked on the title, so you already know it's not really a surprise. We're going to be talking about Sonic. So a few months back, I had the Master System in my living room as my month with console. For those of you who don't watch the channel, basically I live with a console for a month. I'm not going to go into detail, I do it every time. Those of you who watch my channel all the time will be bored of me talking about this. But as part of that month with, I looked at all of the Sonics, all of the 8-bit Sonics on the Master System, and talked a little bit about them, talked a little bit about the history, all those kind of things. Go check out the video. It was really enjoyable doing all of those. And so this month, as part of my month with, I have the Mega Drive in my living room. So we're into the 16-bit era, the 4th generation. And I figured that it would only be fitting to have a look at Sonic the Hedgehog on the 16-bit platform. Now, for many of us, me included, Sonic on the Mega Drive was probably the first time, or for a lot of us, that we encountered Sonic. It came out, surprisingly, around the same time. So Sega did Sonic on the 8-bit consoles, and it did Sonic on the 16-bit consoles around the same time in the early 90s. So it really was a 90s phenomenon, and it was great that Sega supported their older hardware, but it was a different game. So the games on the 16-bit consoles are quite different, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. Now, we're going to I'll run through all of these titles with you. So we have, obviously, the Sonic the Hedgehog game. This is the very first one from 1991. I still think this has the best soundtrack, but we'll talk about that as we do the playthrough in a moment. We have got Sonic 2, and Sonic 2, very similar to the first one in a lot of ways, but just a bit more of a polished article. And again, we'll talk about some of the additional things that Sonic 2 brought with it when we do the playthrough on there as well. We then had Sonic 3, again a 2D sideways scroller. Again, same sort of thing, but slightly different feel to it than the first two. The opening level is quite different, but yeah, that's Sonic 3. I really like this game. And not very many months afterwards, we had Sonic and Knuckles, and there's an interesting feature of this game which I will tell you about when we do the playthrough, or specifically an interesting feature of this cartridge. And yeah, that's basically Sonic 4. But yeah, 8 months. There was only 8 months between Sonic 3 and Sonic 4. That came out in 1994, both of them. February for Sonic 3 and October for Sonic and Knuckles. And then we had a couple of other titles. So separate to the 2D scrollers, we had Sonic Spinball, which did appear also on the Master System, and it's quite a lot of fun. I'm going to talk about it briefly. It's not what I would consider a classic Sonic. There is another game which only came out in Japan called Sonic Eraser, which I've never played before. I'm not going to really talk much about it today on the channel. But yes, that's Sonic Spinball. That came out in 1993. And then in 1996, right at the end of the Mega Drive generation, we had the extremely divisive yet ambitious Sonic 3D. So we went from our 2D scroller. Bearing in mind this is a 16-bit console, there was no clever extra chips like the SVP that we had in Virtua Racer. If you saw my video last week on the racing games on the Mega Drive, so it is actually somewhat of a technological achievement, this game, but very mixed in terms of response and reception. And yeah, I'll talk you through a little bit of the reasons why that is the case as we go through it. So that is Sonic 3D. So those are the 6 games, sorry, I can't even count. Those are the 6 games we're going to be looking at today. So let's get stuck straight in with the first Sonic the Hedgehog, and I'll talk you through a little bit about the game and the history, and yeah, let's just get stuck straight in. Okay, here we go. This is the very first Sonic the Hedgehog. Came out in 1991, and probably the first time any of us experienced Sonic. If you had a Master System, you potentially would have played it on there first. But for me, this was my first outing of Sonic. I didn't really understand that there were different versions on the 8-bit consoles and 16-bit consoles. So I remember playing Sonic on the Game Gear initially and thinking it was quite different, and that was that was a little bit confusing to me at the time. It's only really in later years that I understood that they were quite different, had different development teams and all sorts as well. But yeah, I mean, let's just talk a little bit about the game then before we sort of talk about the gameplay that's happening at the moment. So, I mean, this wasn't just a game, right? It was Sega's statement of intent. They wanted their own mascot. They wanted something to represent Sega like Mario did for Nintendo. And it set this standard for speed. I mean, that was the thing that was the most standout thing about Sonic. When you played sort of Super Mario and you were kind of walking along and it was felt sort of reasonably slow, you know, and that was okay, you know, that was the game, it was great, but the thing about Sonic was it was fast, it was rapid, you know, the sort of, especially on the 16-bit consoles, the big difference between the 16-bit and the 8-bit consoles was that the 8-bit version, largely due to limitations in the hardware, was much more of an exploration type of affair, whereas this version, you can see here, 1 minute and 23 seconds just on that first stage, absolutely rattled through it really, really quickly. The art style of the game, obviously bright, bold, very colourful, and it was really meant to show off the Mega Drive's sort of enhanced colour palette and its processing power. Each of the zones had their own distinct look, and obviously here we're looking at Green Hill, which is you know, lush green zone, and then we've sort of got things like you know, the Marble Zone, which comes up next. Very, very different feel to it, and that continues through the different versions of the game as well. Character animation, Sonic's design, very sleek, very expressive, even that little idle animation, so when he's standing around not doing anything, he kind of taps his feet. Yeah, he just had this sort of personality. He just felt that little bit cooler, really. Music, again, another standout feature of this game, and yes, let's not forget, you know, the Mario games also had a fantastic soundtrack, so Sega felt they needed to respond with something similar, you know, a distinctive soundtrack. All of the games have their own soundtrack. I personally really like this first Green Hill Sonic theme. I think it is the most iconic. We're just going to get an extra stage here. He spots the big ring there. So we get a little bonus stage before we head into the next act. You'll see this in a minute. So yes, composed by Masato Nakamura, and yeah, he was actually in a Japanese pop band called Dreams Come True, and the Green Hill Zone theme, obviously instantly iconic. It's upbeat, it's got that sort of tropical feel to it, it's energetic, and each zone has its own sort of unique feeling to it as well. So yes, that bonus stage there, a lot of fun, despite it being quite short on my part. You can see the beginnings of the sort of Sonic Spinball idea that came along later. Oh, that's disappointing. That is so disappointing to die just on spikes right at the beginning because I didn't have any rings. So yeah, fun fact on the music, in fact, Nakamura reportedly composed some of the tracks before seeing the gameplay footage. So it's really just based on art concepts and designs, essentially. That is the sort of the sort of basics of the game, and yeah, as I mentioned, released in June of 1991, and it was a hit. It was praised for its visuals and soundtrack, and you know, apart from a few people who said it lacked the tight platforming of Mario, it just had that cool fact. I always thought that Sonic was just so much cooler than Mario. I love both. I love them both now in later years for completely different reasons, but I loved how cool it was. It felt so grown up and cool. You know, Mario was sort of iconic in the 80s, you know, defined the NES and all of those kind of things. Sonic obviously came out in the 90s, and he is a real 90s icon. So yeah, just scrolling through the gameplay here. So this is I think I'm now, I wasn't paying attention actually. Am I in the third act here? I think I might be. Yes, I'm in the third act here. In this original Sonic, was 3 acts in each of the sort of stages, if you like. So this is the third act of the Green Hill Zone, and then we'll get the boss at the end of this. You still have the rings on here when you get to the boss, which in the 8-bit ones you didn't. So you had to kind of do it with no rings, which was made it a little bit more challenging. This is quite a straightforward boss. The first ones usually are, although I still managed to kind of mess it up a little bit here, as you can see. There we go. One of the big differences I think that we all see later on is that Sonic doesn't have that kind of charge spin thing in the first one. And when you're used to playing some of the later Sonics, it kind of catches you out a little bit. You can't do that sort of crouch and spin thing to get yourself around some of the loops. And actually that becomes a really important feature in later versions. But yeah, in this one, he doesn't do it. I can't believe I got hit twice by that now. And again, there we go, 3 times. Yeah, it's easy to mess it up. You can sort of get a rhythm on this boss. It's quite straightforward, actually, really. But normally I don't end up getting hit once. But on this particular occasion, because I'm filming, I made a stupid mistake. There we go. We're going to jump on the thing and release all the little animals that have been trapped. That seems to be the general thing. Robotnik puts animals into robots, and Sonic goes and releases them all. And the cute little animals from all over the place. So now we're going to go to the next stage, and this is Marble Zone. We're just going to watch a little bit of this, and then we'll go on to talk about Sonic 2. The second stages in a lot of the games are actually the ones that seem to be more different than any of the others. Like you'll see in Sonic 2, the second stage is quite different from this. And you'll also see that in 3 as well, whereas the first stage in 1, 2 and 3, and to a certain degree Sonic and Knuckles, is quite similar as well. This is quite hard, this level. For a second stage, it is pretty tricky. You've got to be quite, you've got to be quite on it. There are lots of things to catch you out here, but yeah. Let's leave Sonic now, and let's go and look at Sonic number 2. Okay, so here we go. This is Sonic 2, and after the amazing success of the first one, you might wonder to yourself, how do you improve on that first amazing title? Well, Sega absolutely pulled it out of the bag, and they improved on it by releasing Sonic 2. It is another fantastic game, and it really became the gold standard in sideways scrolling 2D platformers at the time. It is just better in every single way. Another fantastic soundtrack from Masato Nakamura, and we also see the introduction of Tails, his companion that sort of comes along. We had 2-player added to this game as well, and I've already mentioned this about how important this is. Let's not forget about the Spin Dash. So the Spin Dash, one of the biggest gameplay additions, players could now obviously rev up and do a release of bursts of speed from a standstill, and this made the game feel even faster. Everything about this game was designed to kind of really enhance that speed. Everything's just a bit smoother, everything is just a bit brighter and more vibrant, really pushes the Mega Drive a little bit more, and this really is an absolutely incredible game. The zones are now bigger, they're more complex, as I mentioned, they're designed for speed. There's more sort of vertically branching paths, so there's different ways to complete each of the levels, which just made it feel sort of fuller and better. And you can see some of those like twisty loops there, absolutely fantastic, gave a real feel of speed, and I love that. I mean, I remember seeing this for the first time and just thinking this game was absolutely incredible. The whole game engine was just optimized for that quicker speed. We're still completing that level, Act 1, in 1 minute and 32 seconds there. So yes, and Sonic and Tails themselves also got a lot more fluid movement and personality in their animations, which again just makes it feel just that little bit better and that little bit more polished. So yeah, just fantastic, brilliant. And the soundtrack, again, really, really good. I still love that first game soundtrack. That is still my favourite, but the second one also brings some really great music to it, really well themed for each of the zones, of which there are 11 full zones in total. We've got 6 in the first one, I didn't mention that, but we've also got some classics in here which people absolutely love. Chemical Plant, which is the second one, which I find incredibly frustrating at times, but I do really love that. We've got Casino Night, Metropolis Zone, another couple of fan favourites in there as well. So yeah, brilliant. Currently on the second act here. Oh, I just love those. I love those little twisty loops there. They just look fantastic. Nearly didn't have enough speed to get over that one. And you'll see here as well, we're going to do a little bit of an extra bonus section here. You can see the sort of start of that kind of 3D thing with this. I thought this was amazing the first time I saw it. You sort of run down here and collect as many rings as you like, as you need. Sorry, and if you get, I think it's like 140 in this first one, you get yourself a Chaos Emerald. Each of the games had sort of different bonus stages in. There is one with the blue and red spheres, which we'll see later, which makes an appearance in quite a lot of the Sonic games. Yeah, I mixed success on that. You know, there's the sort of pinball one that we saw in the first one that makes another appearance in a slightly different format in Sonic and Knuckles. But I love these little bonus stages. I think they're great. Yeah, doing pretty well on this one. I normally manage to screw it up, but it is quite cool. I think if you do this enough, you're going to get to know which side the rings appear on, and you know, do much better here. But yeah, I think I managed to do this. I'm just going to watch this for a moment. Sonic, got to get 140, another 15 to get. Can you do it? 139, one more. There's nothing worse actually than when you think you've got one more and then that's the end of it and you see the finish line and you finish just 139 or something. Oh, I absolutely smashed that. Fantastic. And I'm going to get myself one of them sweet Chaos Emeralds. Lovely stuff. I made this video a little bit longer so I could just show you that bonus stage. I didn't want to skip over it because I think they're quite cool. So straight back into Zone 2. This one's called Emerald Hill as opposed to Green Hill, but very, very similar, obviously. Nearly messed up there. Another quite straightforward boss for this first stage here. So we just got to make sure we don't get hit by that sort of little drill piece on the front there, which eventually becomes detached. But he's actually quite. This is probably one of the more straightforward bosses that you'll find actually. Yeah, he doesn't need a lot of hits, and it helps actually having Tails because he will also inflict some damage as well. And there we go. That's it. That's it. I don't know if I mentioned what year this came out. So this was 1992. So it was only a year after the first one. The days when you could sort of turn sequels around and do something amazing in a relatively short amount of time. Yeah, this was a critical and commercial smash, as I mentioned. It sold over 6 million copies. And it's one of the best-selling Sega games ever, in fact. So yeah, it was just praised for everything, you know, being faster, smoother, more ambitious in every single way. So I think probably, in some ways, I think probably a lot of people would tell you that this is their favourite, and I think this is, for me, certainly at the peak of the 2D platformers, and that probably doesn't bode well for number 3, although I like number 3 as well, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So let's leave Sonic going around Chemical Zone for a little while, Chemical Plant Zone, sorry, and yeah, and then we'll have a look at Sonic 3. Okay, so we're up to number 3 now, and this brought with it some competition elements. So we had Grand Prix, Match Race, Time Attack that were also available, as well as the standard levels. And it also brought with it the ability to be able to save. So we could save a game, which was fantastic. That was new. That removed a lot of the frustration that you had from playing some of the older games where once you died, that was it. You went right back to the start, and that was it. As you can see here as well, we've introduced another new character. Yeah, Knuckles was a bit of a jerk, to be honest with, to start with. Despite the fact that he becomes sort of one of the friends, and if you watch the latest movie, in fact, he's played by Idris Elba, and you know, he's kind of cool. But yeah, in some of these early games that we first saw Knuckles, he was a bit of a pain in the backside. Yeah, we're gonna now, here we go. We are gonna go into a special stage. Before I start talking about the game a little bit more, this appears quite a lot actually, and the idea is that you've got to collect these blue spheres. If you collect all of them from this sort of large globe that you're going around here, you will get a Chaos Emerald. It's quite tricky. If you make one wrong move, easy for me to say, you will immediately be returned back to the game and you won't win the Chaos Emerald. And essentially, to make that wrong move, all you do is you hit a red sphere, which is basically one that you've already changed. You can see they go from blue to red. If you touch a red one, that's it, you're out. So it is quite tricky. I have only done this a handful of times, and you will be pleased to know that this is actually one of those few times when I did actually manage to do it. So that's why I've kept it in the video, just to kind of show you. Obviously, each time it gets more and more difficult. As you get through each of the stages, it gets quicker and quicker as well, which makes it really tricky. I nearly screwed up, as you will just about to see. There we go. Oh, luckily for me, it was just... it was the last one. Otherwise, I'd have been in trouble there. But there we go. I got my green Chaos Emerald. So let's now run back into the main game. It's going to put us back where we hit that big gold ring. So yeah, back in Angel Island Zone. First part, it's remembered how many rings we've got. It doesn't always do that, depending on the Sonic game. Sometimes you can come out and it's forgotten how many rings you've got, so you've got none left, which can be somewhat of a nuisance. So let's talk a little bit about Sonic 3 then. Again, just improved on absolutely everything. Another really good soundtrack. I don't think it's as good as the first two, but it is still good. Yeah, and I mentioned that save feature, which was a big addition, yeah, a big quality of life improvement. Let's put it that way. We've got 3 new power-ups in the gameplay. So we've got the fire shield, the water shield, and the electric shield. Those become very important, as you will see later. We've got new zones. So there's 6 large multi-act zones, which with big sprawling level design, branching past dynamic environments, all of those kind of things. And as you see here, the Angel Island started out nice and green and lush, and is now all torched. We haven't even reached the end of the level yet. It's all completely changed. Better AI and co-op as well, and Tails can now fly and swim when he's controlled by that second player there. More detail again, larger sprites, the parallax scrolling with weather effects and dynamic lighting really sort of brings the environments to life. So it is, all in all, you know, on paper a better game. Actually, personally, I still think 2 is the better game. But it is still fantastic, and yeah, it has still got that amazing soundtrack. It's still very good, yeah, it also received widespread critical acclaim for its visuals. You know, it was very good. Yeah, I messed up there, didn't I? It sold over 1 million copies and was praised for bringing sort of maturity and depth to the series as well. So. Ultimately, many fans considered sort of Sonic 3 and Knuckles the full combined experience to be the definitive 2D Sonic adventure. We'll talk more about that in a moment, because you're probably thinking, what are you talking about? We'll talk about that in the next instalment, because that's an interesting little extra feature. But let's have a look at the gameplay here. So just at the end of the level, this was something that was quite fun to do. Before the little sort of sign lands on the ground, you can sort of do this thing where you jump up and push it up in the air and get more points, and occasionally it will land and drop you a power up. It didn't that time. So yes, that's quite fun. Loads of little additions like this, but it still feels like Sonic. It still feels proper. You know, it doesn't feel like we've done anything different here. So we're just going to do, yeah, another little spin thing. Again, that speed in there as well. I'm going to do another bonus level now as well, which I'm going to skip this one because you got the idea of this already. And yeah, I didn't get the Chaos Emerald this time, so let's skip this section. Okay, we rejoin the action quite a way into this first stage. Actually, I've sort of skipped forward quite a little bit here. There's a couple of things I want to show you before we finish Angel Island. It's yeah, a lot more exploration in this one, which is sort of reminiscent of the 8-bit Sonics. But yeah, it's you know, there is still that sort of speed element in there. now that is particularly useful for a lot of reasons. There's a lot more water in this game, as you will see on the next stage, and some more sort of bonus stages, which is what I'm going to show you here. So you can see them sort of opening up above the checkpoint there, and you can kind of jump in. Do you know what? I don't ever remember this one. I'm sure I must have done it, but I didn't recall this. Sort of like a little pinball thing. Kind of got to get all the way to the top there and spin that little sort of I guess little dial, and it sort of drops power-ups out for you. Yeah, kind of missing the point here. Kind of just need to drop to the bottom. Just jump on. Yeah, that's it. There you go. Now that's particularly useful, as you will see in a minute. So I've got the little fire shield thing going on there, and as I reach the end of this stage, that proves to be incredibly useful. As you will see, because this actually, for the end of this first stage, is actually quite a hard boss, I think. Oh yes, first of all we've got to outrun this sort of this big airship thing going on here. Quite often when I play this game I forget about this bit, and I sort of stand there, and if you don't start moving quick, you get yourself into trouble. You can see Tails getting absolutely rinsed by the bombs that are dropping out there. It's a pretty close call on my part as well, because I didn't quite start as quickly as I should have done. But yeah, now we're going to sort of reach the full end of level boss here, and you'll see why the fire shield is particularly useful here. So he's going to burn this little bridge when he appears. So the first time you play this, you don't realise that, and immediately fall into the sort of abyss, and then that's the end of the game. Well, not the end of the game, but certainly the end of that life, and you've got to go back to the start. And yes, I wasn't sure whether this would work, because I don't think I've ever had a fire shield at this point, but as it turns out, I thought I'll give it a risk. Yes, it does work. There you go. So if you've got the little fire shield there, basically his weapons are utterly useless, which makes this incredibly easy to defeat. But actually, he is quite a challenging boss. Normally, this Robotnik machine is normally quite tricky to do. But yeah, in this particular instance, very straightforward. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at the next level very quickly, and then we're going to move on to Sonic and Knuckles, and yeah, see how we go. So the next one is Hydrocity. Hydrocity? I don't know whether I've ever actually had to say it out loud, but yeah, and there's Knuckles again, the jerk. Hydrocity? I think it's Hydrocity, isn't it? Unless it's Hydro City. But then it would be two words. I don't actually know. Do you know what? I don't know. Yeah, pop something in the comments. Let me know. Educate me. And you can see here, a lot more water. I didn't like this. This stressed me out because I always thought I was going to drown. So there's bits where you're sort of under the water and bits where you're not. And you'll hear it sort of chiming to say you're running out of air. And occasionally you will see, as you go round, you'll see sort of little bubbles that will help you. But yeah, just on the left there was some down there as well. You can just sort of see them bubbling up. There we go. That's it. And I just couldn't manage quite to get it. And then I'm getting the 3, 2, 1. You're going to drown. It's so stressful. There we go. I'm okay now. So there we go. That's Hydrocity Zone, and you know, much of the same. This level is really quite challenging because you've got the sort of concept of running out of time and running out of air, and obviously everything is kind of slowed down because you're in the water. Those water bubbles are really useful, and I managed to retain it for all of about 10 seconds, I think. There we go. So let's leave Sonic and Tails there. Let's go and have a look now at Sonic and Knuckles. Alright, so Sonic and Knuckles, technically speaking, Sonic the Hedgehog 4, but this was Sonic and Knuckles, and I have an interesting relationship with this game because it's not my favourite Sonic game, but I do love it, and the reason I love it is because it's the only Sonic game that I've actually managed to fully complete, and it's also a game that I only ever played on the Genesis emulator. I never actually played this game on the Mega Drive. So I came to this game probably in the later 90s. Bearing in mind this game came out in 1994, only 8 months in fact after Sonic 3. So yeah, quite quite fond memories of this one. Yeah, I felt that the soundtrack on this just wasn't anything like as good. It's still good. It's still very, very good, in fact. This definitely had the weaker soundtrack. But here's an interesting thing, and I'm going to show you a few little clips as we go. But basically, this came with something called lock-on technology, which was a cartridge that had a pass-through slot on the top that let players essentially physically connect it to Sonic 3, Sonic 2, and even the original Sonic, and in fact, other cartridges as well. So let's just take a quick look. Let's take a break from the gameplay here, and let's just take a quick look at what that lock-on technology was all about. Okay, so if we insert our Sonic 1 cartridge for right away, and we're going to get this, which doesn't seem very good at all. But actually, if we go ahead and we press A, B, and C all at the same time, we've suddenly got this ability to start a level. This will seem very familiar to you, and basically Sonic 1, the reason why this didn't have anything extra in it was largely because they said, well, the subsequent two games, really the first one just didn't have the right sort of characteristics, and it was a bit too limited for us to have a playable game. So Sonic 1, like many of the other cartridges, basically allowed you to play this mini game. You put other cartridges in there, you press the A, B, and C, and then you can play a whole bunch of these sphere levels, which is kind of cool as well. So if we now go ahead and we put Sonic 2 in there, oh, look at this! There he is. There is Knuckles, and it's Knuckles the Echidna in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So this is like just a whole bonus thing. It's fantastic. We've plugged this into the top of the cartridge. It's like a whole extra game. And in the 90s, this kind of DLC thing was just unheard of. So the fact that we got to see Knuckles as a playable character in this game was just fantastic. Okay, and finally, if we plug Sonic 3 into the top of our Sonic and Knuckles cartridge, we get Sonic the Hedgehog, well, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and that is the additional one as well. So absolutely fantastic. Let's rejoin the gameplay now, and let's get stuck back in with where we left off. Okay, there we go then. So we're back in the action where we left off, and we're back in Mushroom Zone. And we'll play this for a little bit longer, but just so you carry on getting the idea here. Sonic and Knuckles himself is now a playable character, and obviously we had that lock-on cartridge technology which allowed us to play Knuckles in some of the other titles as well, which is fantastic. And Knuckles became a fan favourite, and it continued to expand the Sonic universe in lots of new different directions. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, this is just, I think, a really great entry in the series. It's not. I don't think it's the best. I don't think the soundtrack is the best. I don't think it's the best looking, but it is really good fun. And obviously, I know this game probably better than the others on the basis of the fact that I've gone all the way to the end with it. It continues to be really challenging, yeah, it is definitely an ambitious game. It's a bit more cinematic, I think, almost, if you could say that, and it's definitely an innovative platformer for sure. Here's our first boss here. This guy's pretty straightforward, I would say. Just got to wait for him to come to the bottom here and then just jump on him until he blows up. There we go. You'd be surprised how many times I have actually screwed that up, though. There we go. You go with the little jumping around for the signpost again. Will it drop something? Let it drop, Sonic. Let it drop. There we go. There we go. You see, little power up there, which is quite cool. So we're going to skip now to the next act. I can't believe we're only at the end of the first act at 2 minutes and 34. That's quite a long time by Sonic standards, when you consider that when we were looking at Sonic 1 it was like 40 seconds for the first one. So we're going to carry on through here a little bit. Here's Knuckles again, being a bit of a jerk. When you play as Knuckles, the level layout is slightly different, so there'll be things that you can do. Basically, Knuckles can sort of cling onto the walls and things like that as well. So it is a slightly different gameplay as well. It's not just a different character, which is kind of cool. So let's just look at this a little bit longer. I'm going to skip ahead because you kind of get the idea now. It's a bit more of an autumnal feel now. That kind of lush greenness of the first part of Mushroom Hill has now disappeared. Got those weird things, I don't know if you saw it, the little sort of things that you pull down on it takes you, I don't know what you call them really, it's even hard to explain what they are. some of those bits you just saw there where I was swinging around are quite challenging as well. Yeah, there's that one bit just that I just sort of faded into there. Oh, those things. That's what I was talking about. What are those? I don't know what you call them. I actually find them a little bit annoying because they're quite slow. You have to sort of grab onto them and go down. Oh, I'm not going to show you this next bit now because you've seen this many times now. So let's skip forward to the end of the level. So the first proper boss in the level. This is quite a good one. I quite enjoy this one actually. It requires a little bit of dexterity. So I've got to jump over these little sort of spiky bits. I can't touch him when he's got the little fire jets coming out the front of his vehicle there. And I'm going to make sure I jump over that. So we've got to sort of time it right. He actually takes quite a lot of hits, this one. I think it's like, I don't know, it feels like it's about sort of 10 hits. Oh, I did screw up there. Yeah. Got to make sure you get over. Come on, is this it? Nope. I know it isn't because I can remember doing this. It took a lot longer than I expected. I was like, no, it must be this. It must be this. Surely it's only 3. Keep going, keep going. Is this it? Nope. Still more to go. But you're kind of in a rhythm now, and that's the same with a lot of these robotic end of level bosses. You sort of get in this rhythm with them once you work out what to do. It's quite straightforward. There we go, finally did it. Then we'll have a look quickly at the second level again. Again, it's got that sort of futuristic feel of it that Chemical Plant does as well. But I think I probably, wow, I don't know. Chemical Plant I find more difficult than this one. But there are lots of opportunities for you to sort of, instantly lose a life. So I'm going to run along here and then sort of catch on to this. There we go. Decision time, Sonic. Yeah, I don't think that was a good idea if you ask me. Flying Battery Zone. Yeah, I do quite like this level. It's quite fun. It feels very futuristic, yeah, it's quite hard though. Again, for a second level, this is it's pretty tricky. So, yeah, right. Let's leave Sonic there and the Flying Battery Zone, and we're going to go and have a look at the last 2 titles. We're going to have a look at Sonic 3D, and we're going to have a look at Sonic Spinball, and then we'll start to think about what we thought about all of these Sonic games. So, not a traditional Sonic, but let's have a very, very quick look at Sonic Spinball. Now, this isn't your typical Sonic, as I mentioned. It's a fast, sort of chaotic mix of pinball mechanics, and it's got platforming action. And it wasn't, in fact, actually even developed by the Sonic team. It was developed by the Sega Technical Institute, and it gave fans that very different kind of Sonic experience. I talked about this on the Master System review as well, about how different this was, but fun, and how it also spawned a ride at Alton Towers, one of our theme parks in the UK. We had a Sonic Spinball ride. Yeah, basically the level objectives is to collect Chaos Emeralds, usually 3 or more, and then you unlock the boss chamber, and then you defeat Dr. Robotnik. So pretty standard fare there. Levels are kind of quite large. They're multi-layered. They've got sort of quite complex layouts and hidden secrets. And then you end with that, as you would expect, a unique boss encounter, which is often sort of part pinball, part platform challenge. You've got sort of like a giant robotic scorpion or a mech skull or all sorts of things like that. So compared to the sort of the clean and colourful worlds of the main Sonic game, Spinball has this sort of darker, more sort of mechanical aesthetic, and I guess that's because of the sort of pinball theming. We've got lots of sort of nice, unique environments, toxic caves, lava powerhouse. They're just filled with slime and traps and lava and mechanical hazards and all sorts of things. Visual solid, but just a little bit less polished, I think, than the mainline Sonic titles. The music, I think, is quite good. I think it's not a bad little soundtrack. Essentially, I mean, for all intents and purposes, this game came out ahead of Sonic 3, which wasn't quite ready. And so Sega fast-tracked this to get to the end of the year ahead of Sonic 3, and basically the team only had about 6 months to make the entire game. Yeah, it sort of meant that some of the polish of some of those Sonic games was kind of missing, really. But I think it's still a lot of fun. It kind of got mixed reviews, but it's an interesting entry in the 16-bit era, which is why I thought it'd be worth a look. So let's now have a look at the last title, which is Sonic 3D. Okay, so here we go. This is the last of the Sonics we're going to have a look at today, and this is Sonic 3D Flickies Island, and this was Sega's attempt to kind of bring a pseudo 3D world to the aging Mega Drive. It was released in 1996, so we already had the Saturn at this point, so it was an unusual choice. Basically, you know, the Mega Drive by this point is quite old, and it's at the end of its life. But it did mark Sonic's transition into the next era. And unfortunately, it had mixed results. So the purpose of the game is that you're going to go and find these Flickies. They're robots that have been captured by Robotnik and trapped inside. Trapped inside the robots. Sorry, little birds trapped inside the robots. You've got to go and get them, and then basically teleport them out of the level that you're in. There essentially are boss fights, so after you collect the Flickies across a couple of acts, then you face a boss battle at the end, as you would expect. And they sort of featured sort of 3D half pipe or tunnel-like segments, really just depending on the platform. That's the sort of game, and I find this game interesting. You know, if you play 2D Sonic and then you try and play this, which is exactly what I did, I really struggled with the controls and the sort of dexterity around it. Just kind of getting to grips with how it works, landing on things accurately is just quite tricky. You can see me here trying to just land on this little shield thing here. I can't quite figure it out. As you get into this game, it sort of, for me, this game sort of grows on you. It's not terrible. It just doesn't feel like Sonic. It doesn't feel like the sort of Sonic that we're used to. I think there are some sort of little parts in it where you're kind of getting propelled around and you bounce around, and these sort of bits here, like where you're sort of shot about, which gives it that sort of Sonic feel, but it just doesn't feel like the real thing. But you know, this is Sega having a go at 3D for the first time with Sonic, and yeah, the results are mixed. So it is impressive for the hardware. I mean, despite the limitations of the Mega Drive, the game does feature sort of pre-rendered 3D sprites, and it gives characters and environments that sort of modern, polygonal look. And yeah, the environments are detailed. You know, they've got sort of this green grove zone. There's Rusty Ruin, Volcano Valley, and that had sort of lush, varied themes through the fixed camera. Navigation was obviously continued to be tricky all the way through, I found. But the characters were well animated, and effects like fire and snow and explosions, they all sort of added atmosphere to it as well. So you know, quite good from that point of view, but I think flawed. So yeah, it definitely had mixed reviews. It was praised for its graphics and the music, but the gameplay was slow, and the controls were imprecise. As you know, I can absolutely testify to that. And you just didn't have that feeling of speed that you'd become so used to, especially from sort of, well, all through the 2D platformers, but especially onwards from Sonic 2, when you had that your spin dash, which just made the game feel so fast and kind of buttery smooth. So yes, that's probably all I want to say about Sonic 3D. You know, it is an important game, and as much as it does start to bridge that gap between the 2D and the 3D era, but it is visually impressive, yes, absolutely, but mechanically very divisive. You know, whilst it lacked the speed and tight controls that fans loved, it did introduce new ideas, and it closed that Mega Drive chapter of Sonic's legacy with that really kind of bold, if bumpy, I guess, finale. So yeah, that is Sonic 3D Flickies Island. And that is the last entry. So let's go back and have a very quick wrap up, because this is a very long video, and I'll tell you what I thought. Right, well, let's keep this really brief, because that was a long video, but there is a lot of content to go through and a lot of Sonic games. And this my t-shirt this week feels somewhat appropriate 28 eternities later. Yeah, that was a lot of Sonic to get through there, but hopefully you found that useful. So what do I think? Well, I mean, you know, there's probably not much more to say. There's Sonic games, and they're the 16-bit Sonic games, and in my opinion, the first 3 Sonic games and I would say, well, actually no, that's unfair. I would say the first 4 Sonic games, 1, 2 and 3, Sonic and Knuckles, absolutely fantastic. Sonic 2 I think is the pinnacle of the Sonic 2D scrolling games, the 16-bit games. I think it is just so good. The first game was amazing. The second one just perfected it, and just kept that feel to it, and that has that wonderful soundtrack in it. It's just fantastic. So out of all of the Sonic games that I've played, I think 2 is probably my favourite, but I do have a soft spot for Sonic and Knuckles, not least because I actually managed to complete it. Loved that game, played it on the Sega Genesis emulator many years ago, and I just played it until I'd done it, and I enjoyed it, and it was rewarding. So all great games. Sonic Pinball, definitely worth a look. You know, it's great fun. It's a bit silly. It's a little frustrating at times, but it's a lot of fun, and sort of an interesting entry into the Sonic series on the 16-bit Mega Drive / Genesis, of course. And Sonic 3D, yeah. I mean, go and have a look at it. You know, if you're able to, it's interesting. Let's put it that way. It's an interesting thing to go and have a look at. It's definitely that sort of transition that I mentioned there at 1996. It kind of closed that chapter on the Mega Drive Sonic experience, but I think it was mixed. It's a very tricky game. The more you play it, the more you get into it, and actually it's really not that bad, and I think fans were quite divided about it, but it doesn't feel like a Sonic game, not a proper one to me. And to be honest with you, I found that with a lot of the 3D titles that came after with Sonic, you know, that they just don't have some of that magic that you had in those 2D scrollers. And that's not to say they're bad games. I do enjoy a lot of the 3D, more modern Sonics, but those original 2D scrollers, I just think they are just unsurpassed, and they for me are some of the greatest games in the early 90s. They're just fantastic and absolutely worth a revisit, and they are always replayable. It's like Super Mario Brothers, it's like Space Invaders, it's like Pac-Man. You know, those are games that you can always go back and play. It doesn't matter how old they get, they are always just playable, and Sonic absolutely fits into that category. And that includes the 8-bit ones as well. The Master System Sonics are fantastic for completely different reasons. They're very different games. They still have that Sonic feel to them, but they are very different games, but they are also absolutely fantastic. So I said I wasn't going to go on for too long, so I'm going to wrap it up there. So that is my playthrough of all of the Sonics in the 16-bit era. Go check them out yourself. So in terms of now and next, well, we're getting on. We're already halfway through, or over halfway through July now. So going to be doing a couple of more Sonic things, and then we'll be looking at what we're going to be doing next month for our month with. So it's a little bit of a birthday event, not for me, I might add, but a little bit of a birthday event for the next one. So keep an eye open for that. And of course, we will be talking about what it's been like to live with the Sega Mega Drive in the living room, and I'll be talking to you a little bit about what sort of games I've been playing. So that's coming up in the channel. Please do stay tuned. If you enjoy these videos, you know what I'm going to say. Please do hit that like and subscribe button. I do really appreciate it. It's been fantastic to see all the new supporters coming on in recent weeks and months. So thank you so much for your support. But just leaves me to say, please do take care of yourselves. I'll see you around. Bye for now.